What's going on, guys? This is Gene Jensen, and in today's Tackle Tuesday, we are going to talk about how to organize your bank fishing tackle. All right, so this video is not going to be me showing off my tackle that I take bank fishing. You see thousands of those on the internet and on YouTube. This one's going to be about the options that you have out there to be able to organize yourself and be able to lighten the load a little bit. First of all, anything that we show, I'm going to leave links down in the description to Tackle Warehouse. There are my affiliate links, so you guys can go and take a look at those. But the first thing that we're going to talk about is a tackle bag. I always recommend a backpack. You can do a normal school backpack, which I love because they're small. They force you to keep things lightweight, and I'm a firm believer in keeping everything light. Back in the day when I was bank fishing, I had a 45-pound backpack, and the shoulder straps would rip off, and I'd get a sore back because I love to hike in a long ways to certain lakes, and it just got to be miserable. So I started to use a smaller backpack. Now, my son hasn't gotten to that point yet, but I've got his backpack right here. And this is a Flambeau. This is a really nice padded bottom, everything else. But the thing is you need room to put your tackle boxes, you need room to put your soft plastics, and room to put your tools and things like that. So a backpack will do no matter what size it is. All right, so the first thing that comes to just about anybody's mind when we're talking about packing a tackle bag is tackle boxes. And I always recommend the 3600. Let me give you guys an example. This is a 3700. This is a 3600. And I always recommend the smaller boxes. You can get 3 or 4 boxes into a normal backpack, normal little book bag, and have room for your soft plastics and stuff like that. So these are great that size. Now, some of the ones that I use and that I recommend are, you've got the Plano waterproof ones. These right here are made out of a material that keeps your hooks from rusting, which is really nice. And then the one thing that people don't think about is the really thin ones. These are really nice for being able to put in a backpack because you're not putting different types of lures, stacking them on top of each other. Just really, really thin, as you can tell. Let me put some of these down. Compared to this one, it's super thin. So being able to organize, I just seem to be able to organize a little bit better with the thin ones, and they're just awesome. Now, the one box that I recommend that you splurge on is a box that will prevent your terminal tackle from flopping around between little compartments. This is the new Plano Edge Box. And what's really nice about it is they designed it to where once you close the box, these little dividers are locked up against the lid of the box, and the little stuff. Now look inside here. Look at all the little stuff that I have. All the little tiny things usually flop from one compartment to another, and it gets all messed up because when you're bank fishing and you throw your stuff in your backpack, it's typically laying like this and shaking around as you're moving around. But with this one shaking, even if you shake it around, the things don't go to the other compartments, which is really nice. It's worth the extra money for just that box. Now, one that I tend to use a lot, even in my boat fishing, are the smaller. I can't even remember what the number is on these or what size they are, but I like these little small ones just for odds and ends. I might have 1, maybe 2 in my backpack, but just think about it. You can go thin, you can go thick, you can go just about any way, but I always recommend the thinner ones and the 3600 boxes. All right, so the next thing is soft plastic storage. And, you know, a lot of you guys, I always get the question, should I store my soft plastics in a box or should I keep them in the bag? And let me show you what happens when you store them for a long period of time in a box. And this happens to be a Flambeau box, but it happens with no matter what. If you're using a plastic tackle box, this is going to happen over time. And you see the dividers, see how they're bent? Soft plastics have a chemical in them that is a softener. and it keeps your soft plastic soft. Well, when you put them in a box, it over time does the same thing. It softens up the dividers in the box and it causes them to warp. There are very few boxes, and I haven't found any yet, that this will not happen over a 6, 8, 10 month period, a year period. It eventually will happen. So I don't put my soft plastics in a tackle box. I keep them in the bag. And it just simply goes into your backpack in a side pocket or whatever. One thing that helped me to lighten up my load years ago when I had that 45-pound backpack is I realized I was carrying way too many soft plastics. And so what I would do is I would just select 3 or 4 of the ones that I had the most confidence in, and then I would take 2 or 3 that I wanted to try out. The other option is if you've got baits that are the similar colors, you can put them in the same bag. So I'd put green pumpkin worms with green pumpkin creature baits and that kind of stuff all in the same little bag, just to keep it, keep the bags down, the number of bags I used, and I just put half a bag in each. And I'd have 2 different baits and the same weight as a regular bag. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about weight reduction. I talked about soft plastics, being able to combine them into bags. Let's talk about terminal tackle. Now, with tungsten these days, your terminal tackle can get very heavy. Like I said, this one goes to my kayak, so it's actually got more in it than I would have if I was bank fishing. But I still do the same trick. What I do is I would put, if I was bank fishing, I'd be a lot less than this, but I would put minimal amount of weights and minimal amount of hooks that I needed for 2 or 3 days. And that's it. And then I'd have a larger box in my truck or in my car or at home that basically has refills. And I would pull out what I used that day and restock the boxes. And it really does reduce the weight. I do it kayak fishing. This is actually a reduced weight from what I used to have. I do it, and I would definitely do it bank fishing. Another thing that I tend to forget a lot, especially when I'm going between boat kayak and bank fishing, is I forget about tools. And 2 basic tools that I always keep with me is a good pair of needle nose pliers to get the hook out of the fish and to pinch things, and they're just a really good all-around tool for a lot of things you need. They do have some decent cutters, but they don't last very long, so I never rely on the cutters that are on the needle nose pliers. I always have a pair of scissors. These are some of my favorite. These are Cudas, I believe. They cut through braid like crazy, and they really are a really good pair of scissors. But I just make sure I always have them with me. Now the third thing that we always tend to forget, and I'll leave it in my truck all the time, are my sunglasses. When you are bank fishing, I cannot underemphasize the importance of a good pair of polarized sunglasses. They knock the glare off the water, allowing you to see inside. So as you're scouting and as you're walking along the bank looking for life, looking for the bait fish and everything else, it is so much easier to see them if you have a good pair of polarized sunglasses. And when I say good, you can buy a good pair for between $20 and $75. Mine are about 200 bucks a piece, but I'm wearing them all day long. The only thing I recommend is that you check the safety rating on those sunglasses. Because the worst thing to happen would be you bringing in a fish on a jig or a Texas rig, and as you get up and you're reaching down to grab him, that hook pops loose and it's got tension on it, and that sinker and that hook comes straight back at your eye. It's better to have a pair of broken sunglasses than it is to have a hook in your eye. All right, now, rods and reels. I get asked this all the time. What rods do I recommend for for kayak fishing, for bank fishing, for boat fishing? What rods should I get? I'm going to tell you actions and powers and reels is what I'm going to tell you. And then you guys go decide what brands and what models that you like. Number 1 is a good spinning reel. And I recommend a medium power fast action spinning reel. This can cover just about any type of finesse fishing, which is what I typically do when I'm fishing small ponds and stuff like that. Is I do a lot of finesse fishing. I throw Ned rigs and drop shots and little crankbaits and little jigs and a lot of finesse stuff. And if you can do it with a medium fast action or just any medium spinning rod, doesn't even have to be a fast action. It's really good. a 2,000 size reel. Now some companies call that size reel a 20. I think Okuma does. A 200 or a 2,000, but I recommend a 2,000 size reel. Just the typical inexpensive below $100 reel is typically heavier than what I recommend, what I like if it's a 3,000 series. So I drop it down to a 2,000 to get a nice lightweight reel. Now, 2 bait casters. And if you don't want to use a bait caster, grab a medium heavy spinning rod with a 2000 series reel and you'll be just fine. But I recommend, one of my favorite actions of powers is a medium fast action bait caster. This is what I throw lipless crankbaits on. It's what I throw top water, larger shaky heads, like 1/4 ounce shaky heads. I throw crankbaits, spinner baits, buzz baits, all kinds of stuff on this rod right here, and it is one that I recommend for just a good all-around moving bait rod. Just awesome. And then a 7:3 to 1 gear ratio bait caster is about what I would use for it. It doesn't really matter. You can use a 6.3, you can use an 8.1. It really doesn't matter, but I like a 7.3 to 1. This is an Origin from 13, but just a downright good action, good power rod, and it does cover a lot of things. 7 foot, 7'3", somewhere in that length. Last but not least is one that you can throw jigs, throw heavier Texas rigs, drag a Carolina rig, any kind of bottom bouncing baits. It just gives you more oomph behind it, more power behind it on a hook set when you're using those bigger hooks and when you're fishing heavier cover. This is a medium heavy 7'3" bait casting rod. 8.1 to 1 gear ratio reel. You can get away with a 7.3 to 1. You can even get away with a 6.3 to 1 if you want to. But just a good reel and a good rod for being able to get the fish out of the thick stuff, out of the grass, and just fish the heavier baits. Those are the three I would carry. And I know a lot of guys would carry just one bank fishing, but just one doesn't cover everything. For me, it doesn't. And you can lose a fish of a lifetime bank fishing anywhere in the country if you have the wrong setup. And that's what I try to recommend to people, is to, in order to have the best chance of catching the biggest fish of your life, it is better for you to have the right setups and be using, and it don't have to be perfect, but somewhere close to the right setups in order for you to have the most success on the water. I love to bank fish. Unfortunately, here in Georgia, there's not a whole lot of options. I have 2 private lakes that I have access to. I don't try to overstay my welcome there, so I don't go there very often. But Georgia does not have a lot of public bank access, and it stinks. You guys down in Florida are so lucky, and New Jersey and a bunch of other states that have a lot of public bank access. It's just awesome that you do. But we don't here. But when you do get out on the bank, be sure you pack light. You're going to walk a long ways. Look for the bait fish in the water. Look for life in that part of the water, and you'll be able to find and catch bass. Be sure you subscribe to my channel. Hit the thumbs up if you like this video, but more importantly, go out and introduce somebody to fishing. Introduce them to my channel. Let me help you teach them how to fish. More importantly, get out on the water. Go out and catch some fish and have a great day. We'll see you.